Hello and welcome into the Cubs on Deck podcast. I am one of your hosts. My name is Greg Huss, and today I am joined by the always special co-host guest. It is BK. It is Brendan King, the voice of the South Bend Cubs. BK, how's it going, buddy?
Greg, always great to be with you. Congratulations on the new addition of the family, and hope you're getting some sleep, my man.
The sleep is not too bad yet. You may hear some crying over the microphone here throughout this episode, but we're doing not too bad. But
Not just because the Cubs lost 14-6 today, right? Yeah.
Exactly, 100%. Exactly. Dude, how many times have I had you on the show, or like between the two podcasts I've done? We're probably pushing double digits at this point, right?
Recurring guest, man. I'm honored. So yeah, no, this is great. Hey, I mean, it means that we continue to bring coverage of the Cubs minor league system, which remains one of the best in all of baseball. So always happy to do it.
I mean, we got a whole bunch of super prospect nerds out there that want to listen to us talk about the South Bend Cubs on a weekly basis. So, hey, man, yeah, I mean, today we're talking South Bend Cubs. We've got BK on for a reason. It's really an interesting. I'll kick it to you for your thoughts on the season as a whole. We'll get into players, obviously, but it's really interesting because the team record wise has not been strong. You guys haven't had a good year record wise. But the players that are in South Bend, there's some really fun names to keep an eye on. And for prospect followers, that's like right up our alley. Like I mean, with all due respect, I know you guys want to win, obviously. But for people tuning in for this show, a lot of us are tuning in for the players specifically. And there's some fun names there. So how has that balance been for you up in the booth this season in South Bend?
Really weird. Really weird because you're looking at yourself in the first half and you're 16 games out of first place. And again, like, let's preface this conversation by saying minor league baseball development, it's all about guys getting better. And at the end of the day, it's not going to be about wins and losses. And that's what makes the South Bend Cubs having 2 championships in 3 seasons so amazing. The fact that it's not about wins and losses. But we've seen some really stacked teams in South Bend over the years. And that's why the first half was a little shocking, Greg, where you're like, this is not a team that's 20 games under 500. At all. You've got Jefferson Rojas and Cristian Hernandez here all year long. You got Carter Trice being one of the most electrifying hitters in the Midwest League, which I'm not sure if I had that on my bingo card preseason. Andy Garriola was really, really good in April. He's had a bit of a cold stretch since. Edgar Alvarez kind of the reverse. Edgar was cold to begin the season. He's really heated up in recent weeks. So, and then the starting pitching, which we'll talk about, it's finally taking off, and it's why the South Bend Cubs are playing better ball here, Greg, where they took 5 of 6 on the last road trip out in Fort Wayne. Before that, split a series against the Great Lakes Loons, including a huge 11-2 victory a couple Sundays ago. And then the second half starts here as of Friday. First night of the second half is a Drew Bowser walk-off hit. Good for Drew, the 20th round pick out of Stanford a couple of years ago. And then this weekend doesn't go well for South Bend, so we're 1-2 heading into the road trip against Cedar Rapids. So, yeah, to answer your question, it's just been funky where – there's some of these games where I think the team lives up to their potential. You're like, yeah, all right. I mean, this is a stacked team, and they're winning this game because they're a stacked team. And then in some of the losses, you're like, so one thing just doesn't add up. But it's also minor league baseball, so you never know. So, yeah, it's been an odd first half, and it was an odd first half. But I think overwhelmingly the team has pretty high hopes for the second half, considering, A, how good the rotation has been, B, the guys in the back end of the pen have been really locked down, and then C, the fact that Hernandez and Rojas are just getting older and getting better by the day.
You've got a new partner in crime up there in the booth. You've had Max Tillman the past few years. This year you got Tyler Reedy. What's it been like having Reedy up there with you?
He rocks, man. I mean, I have to remind myself when I'm calling games next to him, he's 21. It's his first year of Pro Bowl. He's calling games like he's 26. He's so much better than I was when I was 21, and that speaks to how great of a time he had up in the Northwoods League. He was there last year, and that was great development for him. And also how good the Notre Dame media program is. I mean, they're putting out studs. So, yeah, great for Tyler. Congratulations to Tyler. He had his first walk-off call on Friday. I was down calling the Indiana High School State Championship games down at Victory Field Friday night, and Tyler jumped in the spot and got the walk-off call. So good for him. He's been awesome.
I love it. All right, you mentioned the pitching that has been really figuring it out over the past several weeks or so. And one name that stands out above all, that is a guy that's currently in South Bend, that we're recording this right after the South Bend Cubs finish their game on Sunday. This episode is going to be released on Tuesday morning. Maybe he'll be up in Double-A Knoxville. I don't know. He's been really good. Ryan Gallagher. He has really. I think the thing that stands out to me with Ryan Gallagher, and I'll obviously kick it to you for your thoughts, it's how he has burst onto the scene this year. I think entering the year, we as fans had a lot of hopes for all of the college arms that the Cubs drafted in the 2024 draft, which were a ton of college arms. I think you and I, when we did the preview of the 2025 South Bend Cubs season, we were kind of like, yeah, there's going to be some college arms that we drafted last year at South Bend, but who are they? They all kind of run together to a certain degree. And I'll admit, Ryan Gallagher wasn't on my radar to be a top 20 prospect by the middle of June, right? And he has made it there now. So what stood out to you the most as far as watching Ryan Gallagher pitch on a weekly basis?
How he responded from early adversity, because the first couple outings, I don't think we're up to par with what we've seen from all of May and then most of June, where I remember he really struggled out in West Michigan, gave up a couple home runs. And listen, West Michigan's loaded. They won the East Division in the first half. Max Clark, Josue Broseño, Kevin McConicle, name any big Tigers prospect in there in West Michigan. And Gallagher really struggled. That was his second pro start, coming off his first professional start against Peoria at home, where it was pretty good. Went 4 innings, gave up a run. But Greg, I don't think anybody would have, and no disrespect to Ryan, nobody, maybe not even him, would have him as a top 20 prospect by June. Now, I think he's confident in his ability, but this rise, I mean, heck, Greg, as of last week, he had 6 straight starts of at least 6 innings, less than 2 walks, 7 or more Ks, including 12 Ks on the road in Lansing in May. And that's a start where that's the most runs he's given up on a season. So the fact that he can battle through and strike out 12 dudes, giving up career high on runs, was pretty amazing to watch. I think what stands out most about him is also how he responded for missing an entire year of college with Tommy John, because he has a great freshman season at Santa Barbara, has to be completely shut down and comes back. We did an interview with him. We did a little feature on him, and he talked about just being away from the game and what that did for him on the mental side, and how that also helped him come back and have a great last season at UC Santa Barbara and set up to be drafted. And he said he wasn't expecting the Cubs to pick him. So it was kind of a surprise. And of course, Ivan Bredauer gets drafted in the next round, and the 2 UC Santa Barbara teammates show up together. Here's what's been most impressive to me when it comes to stuff. He throws a changeup that is disgusting to lefties, but he'll throw it to righties. And he actually said it was his final year of college that gave him the confidence to throw that right-on-right changeup, and he has now taken it to the pro game. 4-pitch mix, fastball, slider, curveball, changeup. I think the curveball is the pitch that's still kind of in its infancy stage, but slider has been wicked. I can't tell you, and I'd love to put a number on it. Unfortunately, obviously don't know exactly, but the amount of right-on-right changeups he's thrown has been more than I've seen from just about anybody in my time in working in minor league baseball. So that's a great pitch, and the fact that he's got the confidence to throw that right on right, I love it. He's a battler, man.
You'll like this. I remember talking, I think it was probably 3 years ago now at this point. I was talking with Max Bain, former Cubs prospect. And this was like when the sweeper was taking over the world, right? When everyone was learning a sweeper. And I remember talking to him and saying, like, what's next? Like, what pitch will be the next pitch that really takes over? And he goes, I think it's right on right changes. I think right on right changeups will be the next like big thing. And as I watch Ryan Gallagher pitch, and as I see him throw so many right on right changes, I think about Max saying that so many times, because it's like that is a pitch that traditionally has been entirely dedicated to the opposite handed batter, right? If you're a righty pitcher, you throw a changeup to a lefty batter. If you're a lefty pitcher, you throw a changeup to a righty batter. And it works. It seems to really work against righty batter. I don't obviously have the numbers right on right changeups and what hitters are doing against it, but it looks pretty impressive. That's for sure. The thing that also stands out for me with Gallagher is the fastball that is not a 97, 98 mile an hour fastball. It's sitting in the low 90s, I think is where it's been sitting for most of the season, but it's got a lot of that like late life on it, the ride on it from Gallagher. And So that's been really impressive. The dude gets a ton of swings and misses. I don't have the numbers pulled up in front of me right now, but I believe he's top 3 in the entire Cubs farm system in terms of swing strike rate is Ryan Gallagher. For a while, he was number 1, right in line with another guy, Nick Dean, that we're going to talk about later. So lots of swings and misses, unique fastball with some cut right on it, unique use of a changeup. He's kind of a fun guy to watch pitch.
He's so much fun to watch. And as mentioned, he's not pitching like a guy that's in his first pro year. He threw the other night on Marquee, and I made the comment as we went on the air. It says 11th pro start. He's pitching like it's number 111. And I don't know exactly how long he's going to stay in South Bend. Obviously, I don't get that information. But if the Cubs really want to challenge him and bring him to Knoxville, I mean, that'd be something. As losing him would be difficult to swallow, that'd be something I'd love to watch, because you put him in that Knoxville rotation and you pair him with a Jaxon Wiggins and a Nick Dean, and that'd be fun to watch. But for at least right now, we're glad to have him in South Bend. And hey, shout out Max Payne, because he is as smart as anybody that's ever come through. And I remember we did a broadcast together last year, and I learned more than I ever had in a single broadcast before. So shout out Bano.
Let's talk about a guy who's felt like he's been in the system for a hot minute, but really he's still pretty damn young and really turning it on over the past few weeks. That's Tyler Schlaffer. Tyler Schlaffer has been outrageous. I think really what it lines up with when he got really started to take off was when you guys made the trip to Wrigley. I know you did the feature with him walking the base paths with Tyler Schlaffer, did the interview with him. And I think it's right around there is when he really started to take off on the mound. I'm trying to pull up these numbers that he has over his past few games, but they've been absolutely phenomenal recently for Tyler Schlaffer. He had the one game, I know we came on the podcast and mentioned earlier a few weeks ago, but he had the game where he ended up facing, I think it was like 29 batters in one game, which was like the most, tied for the most in the Cubs system over the past like 4 years. It was him and Connor Nolan who faced like the most batters, because Cubs don't really let batters or pitchers go that deep into starts. But what have you liked about Tyler Schlaffer, and specifically about what he has done differently maybe over the past few weeks?
Well, so Schlaffer at the start of the year, kind of the reverse of Gallagher, Greg. Schlaffer at the start of the year goes at least 5 innings in both of his 2 starts, against Peoria and then at West Michigan, which is impressive from West Michigan, because again, you're facing the Clarks and the Braseños and the McGonicals. Strikes out 8. That's a career high in 5 innings against West Michigan. So at the start of May, he works his shortest career start, lasts a third of an inning against Fort Wayne. I remember watching him walk off the mound that day. I was like, this is his turning point of his career right now, because he missed a year and a half due to Tommy John. Remember, he was a South Bend Cub way back in 2022. He is like, if you're going to play, hey, name the most random 2022 South Bend Cub, it might be Tyler Schlaffer. It might be Alfredo Zaraga. I think those are the two that come to mind. They each pitched in one game.
That's a good pull.
Yeah. Shout out Toma, because he's got Zaraga. We played that game. I was like, it's Schlaffer. He goes, no, it's Zaraga. I said, hey, that's a good one. So he pitches in one game, goes down with Tommy John. And at that point, he's 20, right? He's 20 years old. South Chicago suburbs kid. Him and I give each other smack, because he went to my rival high school, Homewood Flossmoor. I went to Lincoln Way East. He pitched at my high school all the time. I played at his high school. We go back and forth, and we give each other just endless crap. So he comes back in 23 and really struggles. That first half last year, he just didn't have it, and he had to go back to Low A Myrtle Beach. I did an interview with Schlaffer, not the one you referenced at Wrigley, but another one, and he mentioned how going back to Myrtle Beach, how much it sucked from a feeling standpoint. That was the most important thing he could do, because he went back to work with George Sthenopoulos. George Sthenopoulos, the Myrtle Beach pitching coach, was the Arizona guy that was in charge of all the rehabs while Schlaffer was down with Tommy John. So Schlaffer spent a year and a half with Sthenopoulos in Arizona, spent the back half of last year in Myrtle Beach with George, and, of course, posted big numbers, ERA sub-3, and now comes back this year. And as we said, first 2 starts, he goes a combined 10 in the third innings. Like, all right, this guy, he's back. Mm-hmm. And then he goes a third of an inning early May against Fort Wayne. He's walking off that mound. I said, right here. It's not the Tommy John. It's not going back to Myrtle Beach. How do you respond from this right now? Because they're not sending him back to Myrtle this year. It's not happening. Well, he responds May 28th, 8 innings, 1 run, 1 hit, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts in Quad Cities. The longest South Bend Cubs start since Eric Leal in 2015.
That's a
Great
pull.
pull. Another
Yeah.
great pull.
Yeah.
And just dynamite. Since that point, he went another 7 innings a couple weeks later at Fort Wayne, getting some revenge. 7 scoreless on the road. He just went 7 innings again this week against Lake County. He's putting up huge numbers, and I don't think entirely, Greg, he's doing much different. He's just sequencing just a tad better. The fastball, I had a conversation with him at the start of the year. He said his fastball feels like it's at his best of his career because usually a guy from Tommy John, their heater is going to be the best about a year and a half to 2 years after surgery. And he was always kind of referencing that in his head. And he now thinks that heater, it's where it's supposed to be. And he's getting swings and misses at fastballs high in the zone. I'm so happy for him. He's a funny guy. He's a great guy to get along with. But I'm really happy because it's a great story, not just from a comeback standpoint, but this kid literally is from the south side of Chicago. He's a South Side Cubs fan. He lost his father when he was in high school, but his dad was a diehard Cubs fan. His family literally drives, like my family. My family drives out to South Bend all the time to watch me broadcast. His family drives out for every start. It's a
so
quick
cool.
hour and a half drive. I think it's just an amazing story. And you referenced that feature that we did at Wrigley. A couple of South Side Chicago boys just kind of taking in an empty Wrigley. And I remember him saying, like, you go to work out at Wrigley. He had his pre-draft workout at Wrigley in 2019. Could you imagine being an 18-year-old kid? You're about to get drafted out of high school in that same city, and your pre-draft workouts at Wrigley, a place you grew up going to. And he mentioned working out that day. It's impossible not to think about being out on that mound and playing for your hometown team. I mean, this is rookie of the year in real life. Like, you got to, I can't even remember when's the last time a Chicago kid, Nicky Lopez is an example, sure, but like a homegrown Chicago kid, like, you kidding me? Like, it's amazing. So
it's already a great story and has the makings of something like storybook type of crazy fun story. His last four outings, last 4 starts for South Bend, 27 innings pitched, which is a crazy amount of innings for a minor league pitcher. 27 innings pitched, 11 hits, 2 runs, 9 walks, 25 strikeouts. Just tremendous numbers across the board for Tyler Schlaffer. So let's get into, I have one more guy that is a pitcher currently on the roster in South Bend, and that's Erian Rodriguez, who we saw return from injury last month in May, and has actually looked pretty damn solid coming back from injury during his time in South Bend so far.
I remember talking about him when we did the preseason pod, and I remember saying, like, hey, this guy, his last action of 24 was 4 scoreless at Fort Wayne. Yeah. So how does that set the table for this year? Well, remember last year when he came up to South Bend, he was pretty much a full-time reliever at Myrtle Beach. He was just getting into the starting ranks. And his first few starts in South Bend, he's going like 3 innings. He's going 4 innings max. And then he's working further and further when it comes to pitch count. And then that last start at Fort Wayne, he goes 4 scoreless. And you're like, all right, well, let's see what happens in April. Well, unfortunately, he gets hurt and needs to come back from a spring training injury. He pitched a couple times in the Arizona Complex League and then shows up here. But it's kind of like the same slow burn of, all right, we need to lengthen this arm and we need to just get him innings because of that spring training injury. And most recently, out in Fort Wayne, the Cubs had 3 separate 7-inning scoreless performances. Schlaffer, Evan Aschenbeck, Erian Rodriguez. For Erian Rodriguez, the 7 scoreless just happened to be the back end of a doubleheader. It's a CG, 7 scoreless innings, a shutout game for Erian Rodriguez out in Fort Wayne. I like Arian's mix because it's very simplified. It's fastball, slider, changeup. And even though it's simple, it's really tough to pick up. I would not want to be a lefty against that guy because he will backdoor sliders at you like it's his job, and then he'll come at you with a changeup in the dirt, and then he'll throw a high fastball at 97, and you're done. Yes, 7 shutout against Fort Wayne, and then also looked sharp here against the Lake County Captains as well. helping the Cubs to a Friday night win. So, yeah, I think that's kind of a Swiss Army knife type weapon, Greg, where I think the Cubs are finding something with this guy as a legit starting pitching prospect, which is amazing. Consider the fact he was born in Panama, grew up in Panama. His family moved him to the States so he could play high school baseball in Georgia. Cubs take a flyer on it in the 13th round of 2021. I mean, it's not like this guy was paid a ton of cash as an international signee or draft. He was a 13th round flyer in 21 out of high school in Georgia.
And we know how good the Cubs are at drafting on that day 3 of the draft, getting guys in the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th round. That's always super, super important. What's Rodriguez hitting? What's he sitting on the gun with the fastball? Have you clocked it?
Yeah, I mean, so we do have the MILB portal. I was not here on Friday, so I can't give you the most updated. But I mean, he was in the sevens, in that Fort Wayne start. So yeah,
and I think that something that stands out. I don't know if I've mentioned it with Rodriguez over the past couple of years. I really like his arm slot. It's kind of a weird thing to like, but I like his arm slot and how that might work against lefties when you're back foot slidering guys, when you're backdoor slider, when you're using that changeup. The arm slot I think is really good to work against lefties and righties. So that's something to kind of keep an eye on as well.
No doubt. I mean, I love him. So yeah, dude, the South Bend rotation's ridiculous.
So, I mean, let's talk about two guys then that are no longer part of the South Bend rotation, but you got to see plenty of in the early going here this season. One is Jaxon Wiggins, one is Nick Dean. I don't think I want to spend too much time on either of these guys, especially Jaxon. I mean, Jaxon Wiggins is fun to spend a lot of time on. We've talked about Jaxon Wiggins each of the last maybe 5 episodes of this show, but like he deserves it. Like I said it last week, like he deserves it. When you have a breakout like this, you deserve to have a lot of airtime on the show. What stood out the most with Jaxon Wiggins during his 6 absolutely dominating starts in South Bend?
Exactly that. He's a big leaguer. No, happy to have him while he was here, but it was obvious when he was pitching that, like, all right, move down the road, pal. Here, get yourself to Knoxville. It was great to have him while he was here. Dude, triple digits.
Yeah.
Wicked slider, change up. So here's what I'll say about Jaxon. I think his changeup is going to dictate what makes him a big league starter versus what makes him a big league reliever. To me, when Cade Horton was in South Bend, his changeup was already so good and big league quality that he was going to coast to being a big league starter no matter what. Mm-hmm. I think Jaxon Wiggins' changeup is going to be the pitch that dictates whether the Cubs fast track him like Danny Palencia or they let him grind out starts in Iowa. Daniel Palencia, his changeup was all right, but his slider was wicked and he threw 102. Mm-hmm. And they bring him up to the bullpen. They didn't even mess around with him in that Iowa rotation. Jaxon Wiggins, to me, is kind of the same cloth. And even a Porter Hodge. If you want to get this guy to the big leagues immediately, ditch the changeup and make him a fastball slider guy. This is my opinion. Mm-hmm. If you think he's a serious part about your rotation, and the Cubs probably need to think about it, where Jamison Tyone is not going to be around forever. Colin Ray is not going to be starting games for you 3 years down the line. Cade Horton has looked great. I'm glad he's in the rotation. Jordan Wicks has continually battled injury here. The Cubs need starting pitching prospects, and they're going to need guys that can be in the rotation in 27 and 28 and give you innings. So I think the Wiggins decision is super enticing because do you want to fast track him and have him in the bullpen by the start of next year? That sounds fun. Mm-hmm. Also, I'd love to see him start. I'd love to see him getting opportunities to start at AAA and seeing what he's got from that standpoint. So I think it's really interesting.
So, yeah, the thing that's unique with that changeup to me, we can have this conversation about fast tracking a guy with 2 pitches, trying to add a third, about a lot of different guys over the course of the last decade plus in the Cubs system or in any other organization. That's the age old conversation when you're talking pitching prospects, right? Especially big time pitching prospects. The difference with Jaxon Wiggins is that the changeup at times has flashed really strong, really impressive. Right. Versus a lot of times when you're having this conversation, it's like, oh, he needs to add a changeup. He needs to he doesn't have one right now. Let's add a changeup into the mix that doesn't exist and make it happen. For Jaxon, like, he has one. And I mentioned last year when he was on the bump, I think once he got called up to, it was one outing, I think it was in South Bend. Maybe it must have been Myrtle. It must have been in Myrtle last year, where he threw, it was like 2 changeups in an outing, and they were both outstanding changeups. But that was all he threw, was just the 2 changeups. And I was like, oh, like, there's something, this might be the best pitch that he has. Now it's for Jaxon, it's a matter of like consistency with it. He can't throw 2 good changeups out of every 10 changeups. He's got to throw 7 good changeups out of every 10, And so that puts him at a weird starting point where maybe that helps the Cubs believe in him as a starting pitcher more because they've seen it flash as really strong. I don't know. That's worth a conversation. One more unique thing with Jaxon is I feel like with every Cubs pitcher over the past 5 years, we've said, oh, you know what makes his fastball so good? It's that cut ride. He's got the cut ride fastball. It's the Porter Hodge cut ride fastball. It's the Cade Horton cut ride fastball. It's the Justin Steele cut ride fastball. Like, we always talk about this cut ride fastball making it unique. It's like, oh, it may be 95 or 94 or 96, but it's the cut ride. Jaxon Wiggins, it's not. It's the fact that he can touch 101. Like, that's what makes his fastball so special. The Cubs haven't really. I mean, they have that with Daniel Palencia, but in the rotation, they haven't really had that. And so that's just super intriguing for me, is to have a guy that can pump triple digits out of the rotation. It's just like just a good old country hardball is what that fastball is. It's not. There's nothing special. It's like, let's throw 101 by you.
Yeah, I mean, the Cubs necessarily haven't had 100 green in the rotation, right? I mean, it just hasn't come about.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's why the conversation is so intriguing because, listen, again, like, I think I'm cool either way because I think no matter what happens, he's going to be a great big league arm. But yet, just the start of the conversation, though, I think Cade Horton's changeup at the time of arrival in South Bend was more advanced than Jackson's. Not to say that Jackson's wasn't advanced. I just think Cade's changeup is what helped him get to the big leagues as a starter, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I think you're exactly right, but that is kind of funny because all we talked about in his rise up to the system was like the slider was so good, like Cade Horton. It was slider, so damn good. Like, that's the out pitch, and then you kind of forgot that the changeup and the curveball were also good pitches. And that's why there was so much confidence from me and from other people, from you, from whoever, that Cade Horton was a starting pitcher, not there was less reliever risk with Cade Horton because he did have the fastball and slider that were really good, but also he had this changeup and curveball that he could throw in the mix. And then when he got to Iowa, he was like, oh, here's a sinker as well. And it was the extra stuff that made him a starting pitcher for sure in the big leagues. And like, he's been showcasing that changeup a ton in the big leagues, like against every lefty. It's like changeup. It's like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. He's he looks different in the bigs than he did in the minors. But
him facing Lindor in that first game against the Mets, like, oh yeah, this is what you dream about when you're watching him in like Appleton on a Thursday. You're like, all right, let's go.
All right, Nick Dean. I know that for me, I'm going to come out with my prospect list here sometime in July. It's either going to be pre-draft or pre-trade deadline. I'm not sure which one, but I'll come out with a new prospect list. And I think that I will probably be the high guy on Nick Dean. He'll be in my top 15 prospects, I think. I'm really impressed. I mentioned earlier the amount of swings and misses that Nick Dean gets is up there with Ryan Gallagher as tops in the entire organization. And like, that is one of the most transferable skills to the big league level is, can you get swings and misses with multiple pitches? Nick Dean does that. To me, it's the changeup that stands out the most with Nick Dean. But what else do you see on your side of things during your look at Nick Dean in South Bend?
Agreed totally on the Dino when it comes to the changeup. Yeah, I mean, I have so much respect for him, and I think I might have said this same thing on the preseason pod, so apologies, but I have so much respect for him for battling through last season. I won't, tell everything, but if everybody knew what he went through last season to battle through the campaign injury-wise, I think a lot of people would have him higher on their list too, because boy, he was dinged up and he still got out there every fifth day. So God, all respect to Nick Dean, because again, I saw it every start. I saw him in the training room. I saw him with the weighted balls. I saw him do everything when it came to preparation needed. And the fact that he's now healthy, I think it's amazing. The Cubs, while they were scouting Matt Shaw at Maryland, stayed at those Terps games. It's like, hey, this guy looks pretty good. Hey, and we're going to take a flyer on him in the 19th round, and we're going to bring him in, and we're going to steal him. There's so much Kyle Hendricks in this guy. He's not a hard thrower, but he can make you look silly on those 12-6 curves. And as you said, the changeup's absurd. I think just sequencing is what is most impressive about him, and how he's so smart on the mound. He can read hitters like a book. And the fact that it's now translating to Double-A is awesome, because he's the type of guy, same thing. He's going to go out there every fifth day. He's going to give you 5 innings at least. He's going to allow like 2 runs or less. He's not going to walk anybody. He might finish with 3 or 4 strikeouts on a good day, maybe 6. And it's not going to be flashy. It's not going to be 101 from Jaxon Wiggins, somebody looking like an idiot, but he's going to go out there and he's going to put up numbers. It's kind of like what Connor Nolan's doing.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
Connor Nolan's going to go out there and just get you out. Is it going to be flashy? No. But is it going to get him to the big leagues? It sure is.
Yeah, no, I was literally getting ready to say something about Connor Nolan. Connor Nolan gets a lot of love from the Cubs prospect community, Cubs prospect following community. People love Connor Nolan. And I love Connor Nolan. I had him on the show here. He's terrific. And every time people mention, oh, Connor Nolan's awesome, I say, can I offer you one Nick Dean as well? Because it's right there. The same reasons why you love Connor Nolan is exactly why you should also love Nick Dean as a pitching prospect. So, yeah. All right, man. Let's talk some hitters. We got 10 minutes or so dedicated to some hitters, and let's start with the guy who has a legitimate case to be the number 1 prospect in the Cubs organization right now, and it's Jefferson Rojas and the outstanding season that he's put together.
Well, actually, so we're recording this on a Sunday. He just played third base for the South Bend Cubs today for the first time in 3 years since he was a Dominican Summer League kid.
Yeah,
and he looked great doing so. Today, the South Bend Cubs infield was Jefferson Rojas at third, Cristian Hernandez at short, the rehabbing James Triantos at second, and Cameron Cisneros at first. And, you read that and it gives you a shiver down your spine. Like, ooh, it really feels like the days of where the Cubs are just having these massive infield prospects and they're showing out. Jefferson Rojas, we've had this conversation before, Greg. You tweet this all the time, and I'm glad you do because you remind people about it. 99.8% of any at-bats he's had at this level has been a guy older than him. He's had 2 at-bats, or 2 games, that is, in the last year and a half where he's faced a guy the same age as him. One of those was this week, Jackson Humphreys, both Tuesday and we're recording this on Sunday today. Other than that, everybody's been older than him. Let's not forget about that first swing in the Midwest League. Ben Kudrna, top Royals pitching prospect, yard, opposite field as an 18-year-old. Amazing. He plays so well beyond his years. He's so intelligent. Here's my favorite Jefferson Rojas 2025 nugget. His English has come along really well in the last half year.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like he was timid last year, but he was a little shy, probably, getting to know the new level. And he knew enough English to get by to, hey, how you doing? How you feeling? Everything good. This year he's having more conversations with his teammates. He talks a lot of smack at BP.
Love it.
A ton of smack at BP. And it makes batting practice really fun. He's getting into it, and I think he's breaking out of his shell. And I think the performances at the plate are following up with that. He's super comfortable at this level, and he's finding his stride. He homered the other night. He's hitting gaps. He's playing a great short or second, depending on where he plays every day. And I love me some Jefferson Rojas. He very well could be the top prospect.
What's the Tiki Hut look like during some Jefferson Rojas BP?
Him and Cristian are going like blow for blow there. It's Tiki Hut is taking some missiles for sure. So,
yeah, man, the numbers. I think if we at a couple levels above up in Iowa, if we didn't have these incredible offensive performances from Moises Ballesteros and Johnny Long, and even Matt Shaw when he was in AAA was obviously tearing the cover off the ball. If we didn't have those performances for guys that are also top prospects in the organization that are also just happened to be a level away from Chicago, and in Moises Ballesteros' case has been in Chicago, we would be talking a lot more about Jefferson Rojas and the performance. And I think the thing for Rojas for me that is really impressive, and it's really like, I guess, validating, is that last year we watched him play in South Bend, and obviously was banged up during his time in South Bend last year in 2024, but like, you could see that what he was doing on the field was better than the numbers that he was putting up, right? Like the swings he was taking, the lack of swing and miss, the fact that he was hitting the ball harder than he was in 2023. He just wasn't finding gaps. He wasn't finding holes in the outfield. Like, it looked better than, like, when you went and looked at the numbers, you're like, oh, like, he didn't really have a very good year last year in 2024. And I was like, I swear, I promise, like, it's better than it looks.
Yeah.
And for him to come out in 2025 now and really and be back at that level in South Bend, which I think is great that he's back at that level, and really show out, has been really impressive. And I think it's it makes whenever he gets promoted up to Double A Knoxville, which it may happen this week, it may happen next month. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it makes that promotion feel better, because had he started off this year, I know we were having conversations, might he start off the 2025 campaign in Double A instead of High A? That would have felt like, oh, like the Cubs just believe in him, but we haven't seen it. Now it's like, all right, he is tearing the cover off the ball. He deserves this promotion, in addition to the Cubs feeling confident enough to send a 20-year-old guy up to Double A.
Yeah. I mean, let's not forget, he had separate on-base streaks so far this season of 17 and 22 games.
Yeah.
Separate on-base streaks. I mean, his 22, the streak was older than him at one point. So I think you pair that too with the fact that 99.8% of his plate appearances are against dudes older than him. And then also, last season, I think a super underrated note is that his K rate last season was like 5% less than big league average.
Yeah.
So he's not striking out. He's putting the ball in play. And those balls are going to find holes. They just are.
I haven't looked this year, but I know the past couple of years, his swinging strike rate has been right about the level of James Triantos and Brett Bateman. And like, that's where you want to be.
Yeah.
If you're swinging and missing at levels that James Triantos and Brett Bateman does, while also putting up some power, that's something special. So Cristian Hernandez has been a guy, Rojas's middle infield mates, playing some good defensive shortstop, playing some good defensive second base, which is something that we know he can do. Back to stealing bases like he was. He stole, it was like 45 bases last year. Yeah. This year I think he's up to 28, right? So far this year, something like that. Those are things that really prop up the floor of his future, is that defense and base running ability. And now he's starting to hit for some, early in the season, he was hitting for some more power. We saw a bomb of a home run on Sunday. Yeah. That makes it 3 home runs on the season, which 3 home runs doesn't really stand out in a crazy way. But the power looks to be there a little bit more than it was last year.
He hit the light pole in front of the Tiki Hut, which is hard to do. So that was absolutely nuked. I want to talk about his defense.
Yeah.
So through the first 2 months of the year, April and May, he had 1 error. It was as a second baseman. He made 0 errors as a shortstop the first 2 months of the season, which, Greg, you've watched a lot of minor league baseball. I've caught a lot of Midwest League baseball. I was not here when Gleyber Torres was a South Bend Cub. He made errors as a South Bend Cub. Andy Weber struggled in 2019 at first with the cold weather. Andy was a college shortstop in Virginia. Even Ed Howard had some struggles at short. And Ed played high school baseball in the Chicago suburbs where it's freezing. Playing every day at short in pro ball when it's cold is so hard to do. Cristian Hernandez had never even been in that type of cold weather, let alone play. Handled it like a rock star. And again, 1 error in the first 2 months. It was as a second baseman. That's a note that's gone super underrated, which I get. Hey, if you don't, most people don't want to talk about defense. I get it, but he is projecting as a dominant big league shortstop defensively, and he's got a cannon, man. It was, those first 2 months were really impressive to watch.
I'll say it because I don't want you to say it, because you're calling games in High A on a nightly basis. The lower levels defense is typically not the most fun thing to watch on a daily basis. It's rough. It's rougher down in Single A than it is in High A. There's a big difference between Single A and High A defense. Yeah. But you got to get up to Triple A before you're actually seeing like really strong defense. Typically, the defense can be really rough in the lower levels of the minors. It really can. And so for us to call out Cristian Hernandez as being strong defensively, it really must stand out. And it really does. Like it truly does stand out as both smooth and making plays that he shouldn't make, making standard plays that are right at him, just looking the part at both positions has been really, really impressive.
I think a super fun note too. I don't know if this is widely known or not, but I did an interview with Cristian earlier in the year, and him and Jefferson went to the same baseball academy when they were 14 in the Dominican.
I didn't know that.
They were signed out of the same academy, and they played middle infield with each other when they were 14.
That's wild. I had no idea that was the case. That's cool.
Yeah, insane. So,
they've been together for
the last play balls to each other for 5 years. I mean, it's amazing.
I'd love to see them continue to climb the ladder, and I think that I'm sure that probably plays like. I know we view Cristian Hernandez is the shortstop. We view Jefferson Rojas is the shortstop. Like we're viewing those guys both as shortstops, but it probably being together for so long helps that a little bit, that relationship into, hey, it's okay if you shift over to second base for the day, you know?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
All right. Last guy I've got on my list here is one of my favorite watches in South Bend so far this year. Carter Trice has been hilariously good, man. Like he's been so good. He has the second highest OPS in the organization among prospects this year. Carlos Perez technically leads the system in OPS, but he's like 34, 35 in AAA. Then it's Cameron Cisneros is number one among prospects in the Cubs organization in terms of OPS. Carter Trice is number two, and I didn't have that on my bingo card entering the year. He's slugging the crap out of the ball. He had 2 home runs during Saturday's game. He had a 2 home run game. What do you like about Carter Trice besides everything?
That he didn't let his early season struggles hamper him.
Yeah.
Because in April, I think Carter would be the first guy to tell you he was not up to par in the Midwest League. But he's a Swiss Army knife. I mean, hell, the guy was catching last year in Myrtle Beach. For goodness sake.
Yep.
He can play center on a nightly basis. He can play both corner outfield spots. He's played some third for us this year. He's played some second. He's played first. He can catch. He could probably go play short if you need him to. And like Rafael Morel is a crazy super utility guy, but I don't even think Morel can touch Trice because Trice can catch. Like it's not even if you get to a point where you need an emergency catcher, it's not even really an emergency because he was catching last year.
Yeah.
So he's Mr. June, man. I mean, he's got 10 home runs, 7 of them are in June. That's thanks to Tyler Riddy for this nugget. That's the most June home runs ever by a South Bend Cub.
Wow.
7. So
and it's still only the 22nd.
That's right. That's right. 3 of them are leadoff bombs in the first inning. He has really developed into a nice leadoff guy. His OPS for the month is over 1,100. That's not bad. He can just do it all.
He's got some speed.
Especially thanks for bringing that up. He was 1 for his first 5 stealing bases. Since that point, he's stolen 15 in a row. Like I'm not sure if maybe it was some coaching from the Cubs Rovers. Maybe it was something he wasn't necessarily doing well with his leadoffs, but since he was 1 for his first 5 on the base pass this year, Greg, he's undefeated since. So the guy's a rock star.
Has he mentioned anything to you about where he likes to play the most in the field? Because he's playing all over, right? Like that's something that's super valuable in itself. Is there some place that he likes to be specifically? Is there some place that you like to see him at specifically?
So I've asked him that question, and it was kind of the baseball. Yeah, whatever. I don't care. Yeah. He's been great in center. I don't think center field's necessarily his natural position, but he made a couple catches on Sunday where I didn't think he was getting to him. He made a great running catch out in right center. A catch that I've seen like PCA make before. I kind of had to think back. It kind of had one of those, like, remember Ratatouille when the guy was about to put the food in his mouth and he thought back to when he was a kid? Like, I saw Carter Trice made a catch the other day, and like I time travel was like PCA did the same thing.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he was playing like third base earlier in the year. I think he looked fine there. So I think it's one of those things where, if and when he gets to the big leagues, Council's going to look at him and say, "Hey, you going to go to first base? Yeah, Skip, I'm ready." I mean, it's the skipper's dream.
This is a breakout season from Carter Trice. I think that, again, if we're talking prospect list and preparing for that for me next month, Carter Trice is a top 30 prospect at this point for me.
Mhm.
And I think that I'm really excited to see what he does as the season wears on, because at this point, like it's been a very impressive season so far for Carter Trice. It's not coming out of nowhere. To a certain degree, it is. I think if you follow the system super close, like you kind of kept him in the back of your mind as a guy that might break out. But if you're a Cubs major league fan, don't pay attention to prospects. And I told them that Carter Trice is second in the system behind Cameron Cisneros in
Yeah.
OPS, they'd be like, what on earth is going on?
Mm.
But yeah, man, I think that yeah, he's a guy I'm excited to continue to see, especially as he climbs up to Knoxville. He's not old for the level. We've talked about Carter Trice for quite
Mhm.
some time. He's right at league average in terms of age at the level in the Midwest League, and so
Mhm.
I don't know, lots to like about Carter Trice, that's for sure.
He's been awesome to work with too. He's a hoot. So
Yeah. All right, man. I'll open it up to you before we wrap this up. Is there anybody else that deserves a shout out on the team that stood out to you so far this season or recently?
Evan Oschenbeck for sure, and really the rest of the South Bend rotation. I mean, Brooks Capel has looked sharp in a few outings since he came up from Myrtle Beach. Evan Oschenbeck has been the Thursday guy. He's been unreal. Guy's an absolute bulldog. I mean, God, I mean, he's going basically 7 innings every start now.
Yeah.
He was the loser in game 2 of a doubleheader against Great Lakes where he went 7. He pitched a complete game and he lost. It's like, man, I feel terrible. And then, as mentioned, the Cubs' last road trip in Fort Wayne, they got 3 separate 7 shutout performances from Schlaffer, Oschenbeck, and Rodriguez. I think that all culminates, Greg, back to George Thanopoulos, the Cubs pitching coach, and it's been a super fun year for me to work with George because, believe it or not, I had him on my first pro team out in
That's
Boise. He was
wild.
a pitcher for the Boise Hawks in 2017, and he pitched in the crazy 20-inning game out in Eugene back on July 4th, 17. Played 20 innings, 6.5 hours. He pitched the 13th and 14th innings. Best bar trivia you could ever imagine. Who caught 20 innings that night for the Eugene Emeralds? Miguel Amaya as an 18-year-old. So
He caught all the innings.
all that, both catchers. Sam Tideback for Boise,
Oh,
Miguel
yeah.
Amaya for Eugene caught all 20 innings. But
That
yeah,
that is. I hope he had the day off after that.
well, actually, that was I don't know if he did, but I hope to God he did. But to get George has been great to work with.
Yeah.
He was Myrtle Beach's pitching coach last year, and just having conversations with him, he definitely, it's been his goal to lengthen these arms. There is a reason so many South Bend Cubs starters are going into the 6th and 7th innings. I mean, hell, Greg, when Jaxon Wiggins went 7 innings in his final Midwest League start, that was like a foreign language to us. Nobody goes 7
Yeah.
innings at the
Yeah.
Midwest League. Like, it was the first 7-inning game since Derek Casey, I think, in 21. And
Yeah.
I didn't even see that one. The last one I was able to remember was when Brendan Little went 7
Okay.
in 2018. And even then, that was like pre-pitch clock. I made the joke on Twitter, like we were like cavemen watching fire when Brendan Little pitched 7 innings in an hour 49 game before the pitch clock. It's like,
Yeah.
what is
Yeah.
this? But
That's
now
wild.
it's kind of becoming a norm. Like
Yeah.
Schlaffer and Oschenbeck and Rodriguez are going 7 like it's their job. Like, I mean, hell, Ryan Gallagher threw 102 pitches last week.
Mm-hmm.
He's the 3rd South Bend Cub to ever do that. Him, DC, and a guy named Justin Steele. Like
Yeah.
100
Yeah.
pitches at the minor league level. What's going on here, man? Like
That
that never
I'm
happens.
I'm
So
telling you, I've hinted at it here, and it's worth taking a deep dive at some point here. But I know that Todd Johnson had done a pretty good job of keeping up with how many guys were throwing 80, 90, and 100 pitches in starts. But this is, to reiterate, this is not something the Cubs have done in previous years. Like, this is, starting pitchers really did not exceed 80 pitches very often. If you saw a starting pitcher exceeding 80 pitches, you're like, oh my God, like they let them get deep. And now guys are consistently exceeding 90 pitches, all up and down. You had Naz Muley down in Myrtle Beach exceeding 90 pitches multiple times. And that was a guy coming off of Tommy John surgery a couple of years ago. Like, this is not something, this is brand new. I promise at some point I'll do some sort of a deep dive into that, whether it's in written form or on podcast form. But like, this is special. This is something that is a change organization wide in the way they treat starting pitchers. And I, for a guy who's been shouting for this for the past 5 years, love it. I think it's a phenomenal thing. And I think it's preparing these pitchers for the major leagues in a big, very important way, both in terms of workload and the number of pitchers they're going, but the way they're battling through starts when they have the 6th inning and you've got runners on 2nd and 3rd and you need to get that 3rd out of the inning.
Yeah.
That's something that is worthwhile learning and training for in the minor leagues to prepare you for the big leagues. And I've loved every second of it.
It's well put, man. And I feel the exact same way. Just like I think every minor leaguer should know how to bunt, because in the big leagues, you're going to be asked to bunt. And geez, Greg, some of the bunts you see at the big league level right now, it's like, how is this big league ball? Like, you can't get a bunt down.
Bunting is one of those things where it's like, it's one of those, like, never bunt, like, don't ever bunt. But like, when sometimes you need to. Yeah. Sometimes you need to, and you need to know how to. Like, it's not like, I don't want guys out there bunting every inning. Like, I don't want that. No. But when you need to, you need to. You got to put it down.
Game 7 of the World Series, and you got a runner at second with nobody out, and you need to get him over.
Exactly.
Like, so crazy.
All right, man. I'll let you go with that. I can't thank you enough for coming on. Where can we find you? Where can we listen to the broadcast? Where can we watch the broadcast? All that good stuff.
Yeah, B King Sports on Twitter, X, and then Brendan King Show on Instagram. And then one thing I've done into this year as well, just like last year, going live on the old TikTok. So you can find the TikTok at Brendan King Show, and on the road, put the phone up, go live. Almost got a foul ball in the booth last week in Fort Wayne. It hit just under the laptop. So instead of trying to go for the catch, I was protecting the laptop. Fair. So no catch.
What constitutes a catch in the broadcast booth? All right, man. Thank you. Thanks so much for coming on. For those of you guys listening out there, thank you for tuning in every single week. Thank you for subscribing over on the YouTube channel. We're continuing to add subscribers over there. Leave us a like, leave us a comment. Tell us how much you hated this version of the show this week. Always appreciate the inputs. And go give us a follow over on Spotify, on Apple, and all that good stuff. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll be back in your ears in one short week. Take care.